In this tutorial, I will demonstrate how to enter data into the Rhode Island LibPass portal. Throughout the process, I will also highlight features of the portal to be familiar with. Begin by logging in, which will bring you to the LibPass landing page. From this page, you can click on the Data Input button or also on the link in the top yellow menu bar. Before I do that, I want to draw your attention to the Public Library's information page. On this page, you will find the Library Data Report instructions. This is a link to a PDF of that document. I will be referencing these instructions later on, so I wanted to demonstrate where to find that information before we begin. So now I will go to the Data Input screen. And from the drop-down menu, I need to select the collection, and I'm going to select the Rhode Island Public Library Annual Survey. Once I'm in the collection, the next setting to check is that I'm in the correct period. And as you can see, it has defaulted to fiscal year 2019. So I need to change that to fiscal year 2020. So now that I am in the correct collection and the correct period, I can begin to look at the questions themselves. The first feature I want to point out is that some of the fields have a gray or purplish tinge to them. And when you attempt to click in those fields, as I am right now, I'm unable to do so. That is because these fields are locked. They are set to be read-only. And we generally use that setting when the data has been pre-filled or carried over from the previous year and it's static information, such as the library name or the address. So if you do see information that is pre-filled and it's in a locked field, but it is incorrect, please contact me so that I can update that information for you. If you can click in a field, then you should be responding to it or checking that the information that is pre-filled is correct. And this is 1.4, the reporting period starting date. So for fiscal year 2020, that reporting period actually began July 1st of 2019. So now I have set that as the correct date. Just to the right of the field, you can see this value that is in a grade font, and that is the previous year's value. So this is provided for reference only. When you see the value to the right, it lets you know how that question was answered in the previous year. It does not mean that the current year has been answered. So if you were to leave a field blank, you would end up getting an alert when you go to submit because there is a blank field. So the previous year value is for your reference. You do still need to provide a response for the current year. Okay. Some other things that I want to point out in terms of valid responses and how to enter data. If it is asking you for a number, which a majority of the questions are asking for a numeric response, you want to input the number. If you do not have any of a particular item, for example, let's say number of bookmobiles, 1.29, we're going to say 0. Okay, click away from it. That means we have none of this item. So we have no bookmobiles. Number of registered borrowers, positive response. So I'm going to say we have 2,500. So enter that. Now, what happens? This is This is occurring because, again, this is a demonstration account and hasn't had data input into it for a number of years. But if you see this menu box appear telling you that there is an edit check and that it failed, and so this one is saying that the registered borrowers is greater than 0 and the prior year value was 0, please check. What basically, when you see an edit check, it's asking you, hey, is this correct? Did you mean to put this in? If you did mean to enter a particular number and it is correct, then you need to add an explanatory note. This is really important to help us when we are vetting the information and data. So you can add the explanatory note if it's correct and click accept. If you have this edit check pop up and you're like, oh no, I didn't mean to put that in, if you just hit cancel, you'll see that that value completely disappeared. So again, if you do have a positive number to input, you put that in. If it's something that you do not collect or you do not have any of, you put in a 0. Sometimes there is an option for not applicable. That means that you don't know the answer, you don't collect the data, or you can't get the data right now. And an example of that would be in Section 8 Technology, website visits. So if you're unable to do that, you'll see what pops up is a -1. That's an internal code. It has meaning for internally, but it's not something that you need to worry about. But that is what unavailable or not applicable, one of those, that's what would show up as a -1. Okay. So when that is something that you need to select, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to deselect that right now. So those are a couple of types of the valid entries to know about. There's also some special valid entries that pertain just to the Board of Trustees and the Friends of the Library here in Section 1. These valid entries are listed in the Library Data Report instructions that I pointed out earlier. But I am going to enter them now so you can see. So if you do not have a trustee chair or a board of trustees at all, then you would just write no trustee chair. For the phone, you just put 0s in. And for the email, trustee at 0.0. And for the number of trustees, again, we're going to enter a 0 because that means we have none of this item, or in this case, no trustees. And then I just respond any board changes, no. Okay. So now I'll go to the name of the friends group. And the valid entry here is no friends, which is also the valid entry for the chair name. For the phone, it's the 0s. For a friend chair email, if there is none, then you just say no friends at 0.0. And then for number of friends, again, when it's asking for a numeric input and you do not have any of a particular item, you enter 0. So those are the valid entries for these two groups, and the other valid entries, again, a positive number for anything that requires numeric input. A 0 means you have none of that number. And if there is an option for not applicable or unavailable, you can select that. When you do that, you're saying that you don't know the answer, you don't collect the data, or you can't get the data right now. All of these valid entries are listed in the library data report instructions. So we've talked about what it looks like when there's pre-filled data, if that pre-filled data has been locked and you are not able to click into it. We've talked about valid entries and also about these edit checks. So I now want to talk to you about calculated fields. So I'm going to skip over to this library collection section. And again, This is a demonstration account. In your own account, you should see most of this information pre-filled for you. But I'm going to skip down to electronic materials. So anything that is locally purchased, 4.9, 4.12, 4.15, these are all fields that you can click in because they require your input. So I'm going to enter some data in here, just enter a 12. And right away you can see that 4.11, which is a calculated field because it's adding 4.9 and 4.10, has been updated. Now, calculated fields are also locked. You cannot click in them. If this were your account, you would have a value already pre-filled for 4.10, and so 4.11 would be much larger. So that is how calculated fields work. Okay. If you had, let's say, purchased a lot more ebooks, so let's say we're going to put 1,000 in here. That is way above what you typically do. You would want to add an explanatory note. Anything that you feel needs an explanation, use the notes. They're incredibly helpful to us. I am going to cancel this one. Sometimes you're prompted for them, as you just saw. Other times it could just be that you wanted to add some explanation that you felt was necessary. So you just click on it and you can add the note. Okay. All right. So I'm going to close this. One place where notes are really not even just helpful, but really necessary for us to make sure that we are verifying the information correctly is in Section 9, the income and expenditures. So for 9.2, the state government revenue, there may be times where you, in addition to the state grant need that you receive from OLIS, that you also receive, say, a legislative grant. This would be a good place to put a note to explain you received a legislative grant in this particular amount. For the federal government revenue, also very helpful if you receive revenue from more than one source or have more than one federal grant, such as you received CARES Act funds and also a Lori grant. You would want to use the note to parse out those specific amounts. Also very helpful for 9.4, the non-government grant revenue. Again, if you have more than one source of the revenue, you're putting in a total here, so having that note will be helpful to us. So this is just one area where it's very helpful to have that, that note, really essential to have that note. So I can't stress enough how much we like those. And so that is some of the real basics of entering data, the valid entries, making sure that you add the notes where necessary, and remembering that these previous year values are just for your reference, and even though they may be there, they do not take the place of the current year value, and you do need to provide a response for every question. Thank you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. If you are on this site, you'll see that there are email addresses for me, Kelly Metzger, and also for Jason Ackerman and Chai Chin Chen. So any of us are available to assist you.